Hello, everyone. Today we walk through the kind of day you never think will actually happen to you. You're sipping your usual lukewarm coffee, same chipped mug, same awkward nod to the receptionist who still thinks your name is Greg, even after 2 decades. You scan your badge at the security gate, and for a moment it buzzes red before turning green. A glitch, probably. Or maybe not. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Everyone has their own journey, and you don't have to walk it alone. Know that there is always someone who listens and stands with you. You take the elevator up, ignoring the usual dread of the Monday morning meeting. After all, it's nothing new. Someone blames the interns, someone fake laughs at the boss's joke, and you sit through it with the subtle grace of someone who's been doing this for longer than your team lead has been alive. Except today, your seat at the table is missing your nameplate. That's the first clue. HR is in the room, smiling like they're about to offer you a massage instead of severance. Can we have a quick word? It's never just a word, it's a sentence, a paragraph, an entire chapter of your life being shredded before lunch. They don't use the word fired, of course. It's organizational restructuring, transition, letting go. Like you're some helium balloon they're gently releasing into the economy. You blink. 20 years, you manage to say. Yes, we're grateful for your contributions. Grateful? Then why does your exit interview feel like a breakup text written by ChatGPT? You get a cardboard box. No one even helps you pack. It's not even a proper box. It's a weird, collapsible one someone found under the copier. Your stapler. The framed photo of your kids when they still had baby teeth. The mug you won for Most Reliable in 2012. All tossed in like forgotten memories from a yard sale. You walk out with coworkers not meeting your eyes. Michelle from marketing gasps a little too dramatically, then whispers behind her hand to someone who was just praising your PowerPoint transitions last week. They avoid hugging you. Hugging a fired person is like shaking hands with a ghost. They think it's contagious. Outside, the sun's too bright. You stand on the sidewalk holding a box and your breath, wondering if anyone else sees you or if you've already become invisible. What they didn't know is you've had this dream, more than once. Not as a prophecy, more like a fear your brain enjoyed torturing you with on those long nights when the printer jam wouldn't clear, and you stayed late to clean up a mess you didn't cause. And now here it is, real. You got fired. You're numb, but not shocked. Not completely. The signs were there. Whispers, shifts in energy, that suspicious mentoring they assigned you last quarter. More on that later. Right now, you're driving home, and you realize you don't even remember putting the keys in the ignition. You don't even turn on the radio. The silence fills every inch of your car, thick and buzzing like an unanswered question. Ongoing debates about whether your job should define your worth start playing in your head. You always said it didn't. But losing it, being forcibly unchosen, hurts in a way that makes that debate feel like a cruel joke. You weren't just working, you were building, providing, proving. And now? Now you're an unemployed dad, a husband without a daily grind, a former someone. Your phone buzzes. It's a notification from LinkedIn. Someone just endorsed you for team leadership. Oh, the irony. You scroll through the news while sitting in your driveway, too embarrassed to go inside just yet. Your house, the one you once proudly brought your partner to with a "this will be our home" speech, suddenly feels like a rental someone forgot to collect rent on. The mortgage is due in 2 weeks. You're not sure if you'll make it. You finally head in. Your youngest runs up first, too young to sense anything is wrong. Hey, you're home early. You manage a smile. Yep, thought I'd surprise you. And now, the $1 million moment. You lock eyes with your partner. They tilt their heads slightly, the way they do when they're worried but trying not to show it. You whisper the words, "They let me go." Their face changes like a cloud passing over the sun. And just like that, your family's atmosphere shifts. You've spent years carrying work stress like a badge. Late hours, missed birthdays, phone calls at dinner. You justified it all by saying, it's for the family. But standing here now, stripped of it, you wonder if the cost was worth it. Here's a quirky fact you once heard, and now can't stop thinking about. Elephants mourn their dead by gently touching their bones with their trunks. It's called elephant grief. And weirdly, this moment reminds you of that. You're mourning something too, not just a job, but the version of you who had one. You spend the rest of the evening in a kind of stunned choreography. Dinner gets made, dishes get washed, kids do homework. But underneath it all, your brain is rewinding scenes from the day. You keep wondering, was there something I missed? Could I have prevented this? Did they ever really value me at all? And that one sentence HR said, "You'll land on your feet," rings like static. Because here's the thing, maybe you will. But no one tells you what to do with the part of you that just hit the ground. You wake up the next morning out of habit. Alarm at 6:15 a.m., quick shower, shirt ironed, toast burnt. Everything about your routine is still intact, except the reason for it. You sit on the edge of your bed holding a sock like it's an artifact from another life. The house is quiet, the kind of quiet that feels staged, like a set before the actors walk on. You glance at your phone. No meeting alerts, no urgent emails, just a coupon from a grocery store you never shop at, and a "we're hiring" ping from a company in a state you can't pronounce. You head to the kitchen, and your partner is already there, stirring oatmeal like it owes them something. They glance up. You try for a light tone. "Oatmeal Tuesday?" They don't laugh. "So, what's the plan?" That's the phrase. The one that sounds harmless but burns like a branding iron. You take a breath. Start applying. Fix up the resume. Maybe call around. The usual. They nod slowly, not convinced. Not blaming you, but not sure what to do with you either. You're no longer the reliable one with the paycheck and parking space. Now you're just here. As the days stretch into a week, you start noticing things. Little cracks that were always there but never seemed significant. A Slack group that went silent on you weeks ago. Your name dropped from team emails. That one project you loved being reassigned so you could focus on strategic direction. You thought it was support. It was detachment. Then there was Andrew. Fresh out of business school, all energy drinks and bullet points. He used to ask you for advice. Then he started offering you tips. Then he started booking meetings with the boss without looping you in. A slow role reversal you laughed off until it wasn't funny. Ongoing debates about whether mentorship builds loyalty or just grooms replacements start playing in your head now. You always believed in building others up, in passing the torch. But no one told you it might be used to light your way out the door. One day, about 2 months before you got fired, you remember getting a calendar invite from Leadership Visioning Workshop. No details, no agenda, just an empty conference room and a lot of vague words like alignment and synergy. The whole time, the boss avoided eye contact with you. Now you see it clearly. You were being phased out. Not by accident, not by incompetence, but with precision. Like a Jenga piece they could yank out without toppling the structure. A quirky story you remember from a work trip. Dave from logistics once shared that he got fired from his last job because he smiled too much. His manager said it made him look suspicious. Everyone laughed. You laughed too, but now you wonder, how many things did we all laugh off that were actually warning signs? There was also the change in how you were introduced. Used to be, "This is your name, our senior operations manager." Lately, "This is your name, he's been with us a long time." Past tense, even when you were standing right there. You think back to your reviews, stellar until last year. Then suddenly, phrases like legacy mindset started showing up. Reluctance to adapt. You had adopted every tool, every process, every reorg, but you weren't loud about it. And in a place that rewarded noise over nuance, that made you obsolete. They wanted fresh, fast, shiny. And you? You were steady. But steady doesn't trend on LinkedIn. You begin piecing things together like a true crime podcast host. The timeline is clear. Meetings got smaller. Your opinions got deflected. Your boss, who once asked your thoughts first, started asking Andrew instead. You were being edited out, one strategic silence at a time. And the worst part, you saw it, felt it, but didn't want to admit it. You remember walking past the HR office one day and hearing laughter? That specific, muffled kind that stops when someone passes by. You paused. You told yourself not to be paranoid. But paranoia and intuition often sound the same, until it's too late. Now, hindsight is your coworker. You flip through old notebooks. You were always a scribbler, jotting ideas, task lists, stray thoughts. On one page from last December, you'd scrawled, "Feeling replaced. Is it just burnout?" It wasn't. And there it is, the quiet truth. You were being played out of the company like the end credits to a film you once starred in. You start texting an old colleague, Mia, someone who left last year to go freelance. You kept in touch occasionally. Now your fingers hover over the screen. Do you say, "Hey, got fired, coffee?" Or do you pretend you're just catching up? You settle on honesty. She replies, "I was wondering when they'd cut you loose. They've been circling, like vultures." She tells you 3 others have been quietly pushed out over the last year. Same demographic, same years of service, same pattern. It wasn't personal, but it was intentional. You sit there, absorbing it. There's relief in the confirmation. And fury. You weren't imagining it. You weren't just being sensitive. You were being replaced by design. Ongoing debates about whether loyalty to a company pays off keep echoing in your brain. You gave your 20s, your 30s, your weekends, your health insurance trust. And in return, a collapsed cardboard box and an NDA. And yet, beneath the bitterness, you feel something else creeping in. Power. Because knowing the truth, finally, means you can start planning your next move. They cut you off, but they didn't count on you watching them while they did it. You're back in the office after hours. Not officially, of course. You still have your badge for a few more days, thanks to a lag in their offboarding system. It's a Sunday night, and the building hums with that eerie quiet it gets when no one's around to give it purpose. You walk past the elevator banks, down the long stretch of hallway where the lights flicker inconsistently. You used to joke it was haunted. Now it feels like the only place you might still belong. You're not here to steal staplers or cause a scene. You're here because something didn't add up. Not just the way they let you go, but the way your boss avoided every real conversation for the last 3 months. And the way Andrew always seemed to know what was happening one step before you did. You're looking for something, proof maybe, or closure. You slide into your old office, it's half packed. Someone's already taken the monitor. There's a new nameplate taped over yours that stings more than you expect. You open your file drawer, half hoping it's locked so you can pretend you're not snooping. It's not, and there it is. A sticky note, your handwriting, reminding yourself to print out the email thread about the vendor disagreement from March. You had nearly forgotten. Back then you thought it was just another minor dispute. But it spiraled, remember? You defended your budget choice in that email chain. Politely, thoroughly, factually, it rubbed your boss the wrong way. You were told to be more flexible, which was code for agree without facts. You find the printout, read through it again, and you notice a small, newer paper clipped to the back. It's a version you never saw. Edited, watered down, your words trimmed and twisted. It had been forwarded with a note from your boss. This is the tone we're trying to correct. That's when it clicks. They weren't just replacing you, they were reframing you. Redefining your presence as a problem so your absence would feel like a solution. You scroll through your old desktop backups. You'd saved a lot more than you remembered. Project proposals, performance reviews, feedback surveys. You'd even kept a voice memo or two, meetings recorded to help take better notes. But now they feel like time capsules. In one, you clearly hear Andrew taking credit for your system's fix. Your boss says, "Great initiative." You say nothing. You remember that meeting. You were tired. You let it slide. You shouldn't have. Ongoing debates about whether silence at work means professionalism or passive surrender start to feel personal. You used to think not making waves was a virtue. Now it feels like that silence paved your own off-ramp. You sit there in your half-lit office, thinking about how often you traded your instinct for decorum. How many let-it-go moments added up to this one giant "we're letting you go"? And then it happens. Voices. You freeze. Footsteps outside. 2 people. Laughing. You recognize the voices instantly. Andrew and a young woman from sales. They're talking casually. Your name comes up. You hold your breath. Andrew. Yeah, he didn't see it coming. 20 years, and still didn't read the signs. Saleswoman. That's so cold. Did he at least get a nice send-off? Andrew laughs. He got cake. One of those sad sheet ones. They pass by without noticing your doors slightly cracked. You don't even move until their voices fade. The irony isn't lost on you. How they see you as the clueless one, when you're the one sitting quietly with the truth in your lap. You take a picture of the edited email chain. You forward the audio files to your personal account. You're not planning revenge, not yet, but you are planning to protect yourself. You sneak out as carefully as you came in. The night air outside feels different now, less like exile, more like the beginning of something. You head to a diner, one of those late-night places with peeling vinyl booths and coffee that tastes like burnt ambition. You sit alone reviewing what you gathered, and it hits you. They think they've buried the story. But you still have the pen? A quirky detail you overhear at the counter. The cook used to be an IT tech. Got let go after a company culture realignment. Now he flips pancakes and swears it's more honest work. At least Bacon doesn't pretend to be visionary, he says to a waitress who doesn't laugh. And you think maybe he's not wrong. You wonder, if your career had a tombstone, what would it say? Here lies 20 years of dedication, replaced by a buzzword and a budget cut. But that's the thing. They don't get to write the ending. Not if you take the pen back. You start sketching out a list, not a to-do list, a war map. Contact legal friend about severance contract. Message ex-colleagues quietly. See who else knows. Update resume, but not with the usual fluff. Start a folder labeled receipts. Decide if this ends with justice or peace. The debates around justice in family dynamics echo now. Ongoing debates about whether revenge is ever healthy in a marriage or just another form of delayed grief. You're starting to understand how some divorces don't happen with shouting, but with silence and a locked file drawer. You're not just jobless, you're untethered. But maybe, just maybe, that's what makes you dangerous to the people who underestimated you. You head home at dawn, not tired. Not this time. You wake up the next morning with a strange calmness. Like your body knows it's been broken, but your brain hasn't sent the full pain signal yet. You stare at the ceiling, watching the light shift through the blinds like it's Morse code. You don't rush to get dressed. You don't even make coffee. You sit on the couch in yesterday's shirt, barefoot, holding your phone. And then you call Steve. Steve's not just a friend, he's a lawyer. One of those meticulous, always a little too honest types who still uses a physical calendar and never forgot your birthday, even when you did. He answers on the second ring. Been expecting this call. You get right to it. I think they set me up. He doesn't say, I told you so, even though you both know he warned you about Andrew months ago. He just sighs. Tell me everything. You do. Every red flag. Every carefully archived document. Every weird moment that felt like a glitch in the system. You talk for almost an hour. When you finish, he says, send me what you have. I'll take a look. You hang up slightly lighter. But then your partner walks in. Hair still wet from the shower, they give you a look that says, we need to talk. You know that look. I found the bills, they say gently. You skipped the mortgage payment? You nod slowly. I was buying time. I needed space to think. They sit next to you, not angry, just tired. We can't live on silence. You have to talk to me. This affects all of us. You hate how that sentence makes you feel like a child being scolded, even though you know they're right. You've always been the fixer. Now you're the one who needs fixing. Ongoing debates about whether marriage is a partnership or a performance suddenly take on real weight. You always thought if you provided, you were doing your part. But now you see the cost of letting love become a ledger. They take your hand. We'll get through this, but you can't shut me out while you go full detective mode. You nod again, this time with meaning. Okay, I'll keep you in the loop, even if the loop's messy. That night, you do something you haven't done in years. You journal. Not for productivity, not for clarity. Just to dump the noise in your head onto paper. You write everything. What you saw, what you heard, how you feel, what you want to say to Andrew, what you want to scream at your boss. You even doodle a little caricature of the HR guy with steam coming out of his ears. You fall asleep faster than you expect. The next day, you start contacting old coworkers. Quietly, carefully. You message Karen from accounting. She replies with a single line. You're not the only one. That's all it takes. Over the next week, you gather stories like puzzle pieces. One guy lost his job after pointing out a payroll error. Another was pushed out after questioning the company's leadership training modules, which were just thinly veiled loyalty tests. They didn't fire people for doing something wrong. They fired them for asking questions. And you? You got fired because you knew where the cracks were. You find out Andrew is now listed on LinkedIn as acting senior strategy lead. That's your job, the one they phased out. So much for restructuring. You save screenshots. You start building a timeline. One of those long spreadsheets where everything connects. Emails, meeting notes, Slack messages, even that weird lunch invite you got disinvited from 3 weeks before the axe dropped. You remember one lunch in particular. The last time you sat with your boss, alone, you told them, I feel like I'm being sidelined. They smiled and said, everyone feels that way during change. Now you know, that's how they soothe the ones they're circling. You meet with Steve again, this time in person. He sips black coffee while reading your documents. Occasionally, he nods or mutters, that's interesting. You sit across from him, trying not to fidget. After 30 minutes, he closes the folder and says, you've got a case. It's not slam dunk, but it's solid. You exhale. He leans in. But I need to ask you something important. What's the end game here? Do you want a payout, a public reckoning, or just peace of mind? You pause. For the first time since the layoff, you're not sure. Honestly, you say, I just don't want them to do this to someone else. A quirky side memory comes back to you. Back when you were still new, someone put Post-it notes all over the break room with random inspirational quotes. One said, "Your silence serves no one." You rolled your eyes back then. Now it feels like prophecy. You and Steve agree to move forward cautiously. He'll send a formal letter of inquiry, not a full-blown lawsuit yet. Just enough to make them squirm. Enough to show them you're not afraid. Back home, you update your resume. Not the way you used to, padding with jargon and buzzwords. You write it honestly. Your story, your wins, your lessons. You're not auditioning anymore, you're offering. You also apply for a local nonprofit job. Smaller paycheck maybe, but meaningful work. You're not sure if you want the corporate world back yet, or ever. Ongoing debates about whether career success is measured in money or meaning start circling in your head. Maybe this layoff wasn't the end. Maybe it was a nudge or a shove. That night, your oldest kid pokes their head into your room and says, "Mom says you're starting to look like yourself again." You smile. Yeah? Yeah, you're funnier now. You laugh. Maybe not all of you was lost in that office. Maybe some of you just needed permission to come home. A few days later, the email arrives. It's from the company's legal team. Dry, polite, packed with phrases like, "We take these matters seriously," and "No further comment at this time." Steve forwards it to you with one line. They're rattled. That's good. You read the email 3 times. It's a classic corporate shield. Acknowledge nothing, deny everything, and hope the problem goes away. But you're not going away. Not quietly. You close your laptop, take a breath, and walk to the kitchen where your partner is making dinner. The air smells like garlic and onions, and it's comforting in a way that makes your chest tighten. They responded, you say. They turn from the stove, and they're nervous, which means they know what they did. They hand you a spoonful of sauce. Try this, it's spicy. You do, it is. Whoa. They smile. Good, you're awake again. You're awake, all right. Awake in ways you haven't been in years. You're noticing things, the way your kids talk about school, how your neighbors wave when they see you more during the day, the way your partner hums when they clean. You're present, for once, not because you've scheduled family time, but because you have time. Still, there's an itch. The part of you that spent 2 decades strategizing doesn't switch off just because your badge stopped working. You still think in phases, still see patterns. And lately, you've been seeing Andrew's name pop up online, featured on a company blog, tagged in a new client partnership post. They're grooming him, polishing his image to erase yours. You scroll through comments on the posts. So innovative. Great move. He's really bringing new energy. You laugh, it's either that or scream. A quirky headline catches your eye while doom scrolling. Goldfish now have better attention spans than humans. You snort. Maybe if you'd had a goldfish's focus, you'd have noticed Andrew shadowing your every move long before he replaced you. That night, you open your laptop and start writing. Not a resume, not a complaint, but a full account, your version. You title the document, "The Part They Didn't Plan For." You write about the projects you carried, the things you sacrificed, the teams you coached. You write about the moments no one clapped for, the weekends, the quiet wins, the late-night strategy calls, the time you drove an hour out of your way to fix a vendor issue in person because we don't miss deadlines. You write like it's your job again. And in a way, it is. This isn't for HR. It's not for a court. It's for you. To remember what they tried to make you forget. Ongoing debates about whether people lose their identity in their careers echo louder now. You always thought you were more than your job. But the truth? You were tangled in it. And now you're untangling. The next morning, Steve calls. They're asking to meet, not officially, just a conversation. You raise an eyebrow. Why would they do that? Because they think if they talk to you off the record, you'll go away. You smile. Let's give them a conversation then. The meeting is set for Friday at a nondescript hotel lounge halfway between your home and the company's headquarters. You pick your outfit carefully. Not flashy, not desperate, just sharp enough to say, "I'm not broken. I'm awake." Your partner offers to come with you. You decline gently. "This part I need to do alone." They nod. You know where to find us when you're done. As you drive to the hotel, your hands grip the wheel tighter than necessary. You rehearse lines in your head. You won't beg, you won't shout. You'll ask questions they thought you'd never dare ask. You'll sit in your power, not your pain. At the lounge, your former boss is already seated. Same smug posture, same over-scented cologne. Beside him is a younger woman from legal, eyes flicking over everything like she's scanning for a threat. You nod, sit, order coffee. The conversation starts stiff. We just wanted to ensure there are no misunderstandings. Your boss says with a smile that doesn't reach his eyes. You nod. Great, let's clear them up, starting with when you began planning my exit. His expression falters. Legal woman jumps in. We can't discuss internal processes. We simply want to understand what you hope to achieve. You sip your coffee, set it down slowly. Clarity, accountability, and maybe ensuring that no one else gets walked out for doing their job too well. They talk circles. You stay calm. You ask pointed questions they dodge. You mention specific emails. You drop Andrew's name. You bring up that edited memo. You see legal woman scribble something quickly when you mention it. You don't need fireworks. You just need them to know you're not in the dark. Your boss, visibly uncomfortable now, says, "We'd like to offer you a consulting contract. Short term, keep your expertise close. Helps both sides." Ah, there it is. You consider it, not because you want it, but because it means they're scared of what you'll say if you stay outside the tent. You tell them you'll think about it. You leave the hotel without looking back. Ongoing debates about whether power lies in position or perception rise up again. For the first time in months, you feel it, the weight in your step. The quiet power of knowing what you know. At home, your family is watching a movie. You step into the living room, and your youngest shifts over to make space on the couch. No words. Just a small gesture that hits you like a warm wave. You sit down. You're not where you thought you'd be, but you're exactly where you need to be. You don't sleep much that night. Not because of stress exactly, but because your mind is sprinting. Not racing with fear anymore, but with ideas. Every word from that hotel meeting replays in your head. Every glance, every shift, every phrase designed to pacify. They were bluffing. That consulting offer? A soft muzzle. You wake up before the sun and open your laptop. You start drafting a message, not to Steve, not to HR, but to a former intern who reached out weeks ago, asking if you'd be open to mentoring her. You said no back then. Now? You're not so sure. She picks up your video call almost instantly. I thought it was a butt dial. You laugh. Nope, I owe you a conversation. You tell her about what happened. Not all the gritty details, but enough to be real. She listens closely. At the end, she says, I kinda knew. The way things felt when I left, it didn't seem right. She pauses, then adds, You always had our backs. I never forgot that. And just like that, a seed plants itself. Maybe your story isn't just about you anymore. Later that week, Steve sends an update. They want a counteroffer. If you're rejecting the contract, now's the time. You reply, let's hold, I'm working on something. Because now something's shifted. You've started calling your old team members, quietly, respectfully, just listening. Not everyone wants to talk, but a few do. Some are still there, barely hanging on. Some are out, bitter and jobless. Some have stories worse than yours. One guy, Dan from operations, says, I saw it coming. They started cutting our meetings, and then one day I was just gone. Gone, like a misplaced stapler. You write everything down, not to build a lawsuit, not yet, but to create something more lasting. A narrative of truth. Your truth. Their truth. The company's rot, laid out in clear, careful sentences. You think about launching a blog, but it feels too impersonal. Instead, you start a newsletter, Behind the Badge. The name hits just right. Your first post goes out to a small list, 20 people, most of whom are past coworkers. You write about the day you were fired, how it unfolded, what no one saw. Not bitter, not angry, just honest. By the end of the week, you have 300 subscribers. By the next, it's 200. Strangers begin messaging you. People from other companies, other industries. Their stories are eerily similar. Corporate politics, quiet firings, replacement plans dressed up as restructuring. You start collecting them like postcards from a crumbling empire. One woman from Texas writes, They called it realignment. They said my role didn't exist anymore, then posted the same job with a new title 2 weeks later. You write back, That sounds familiar. A quirky moment breaks the heaviness. Your youngest, learning about blogging at school, turns to you at dinner and says, So you're an influencer now? You nearly spit out your water. God, I hope not. They grin. Can I be your manager? You shake your head laughing. You want 10% of my truth? 15% if it goes viral. You've never felt closer to your family than you do now. Not just because you're around more, but because the walls have dropped. They've seen you lose and they didn't run. They saw you raw and they stayed. Ongoing debates about whether parents should show vulnerability to their children suddenly feel like less of a debate and more of a necessity. You always tried to protect them by pretending everything was fine. But now you see how much strength there is in letting them see you stand back up. One night, your partner brings over 2 glasses of wine and says, "You're becoming something else." You take the glass. Something better? Something truer. You clink glasses and sit on the porch, watching the sky go that deep indigo before black. Silence feels sacred now. Not awkward, not forced, earned. The next morning, you receive a message on LinkedIn from someone with a very familiar name, Andrew. You pause. He writes, "I'd appreciate a chance to talk, not as colleagues, just people. Let me know if you're open." You stare at it. No emojis, no fake warmth, just a request. You debate ignoring it. But then again, part of your story includes him. Ignoring that part won't rewrite it. You message back. Fine, one conversation, no filters. You meet at a cafe. Not the kind you used to go to for team building nonsense, but a real noisy cafe with wobbly tables and mismatched mugs. He arrives looking uncomfortable, clean-shaven, no tie, clearly trying to look neutral. "You're doing a lot of talking online," he says after a few pleasantries. You sip your coffee. People are tired of being quiet. He nods. "I just wanted to say, I didn't know they'd fire you. I thought they'd move you sideways, like they've done with others." You stare at him. "So you helped nudge me toward the cliff. You just assumed they'd give me a parachute." He doesn't respond right away. "I didn't think it'd go this far." You lean forward. "You were in meetings about my role. You saw the drafts. You mirrored my projects and smiled through it. I don't think you didn't know. I think you hoped the fallout would skip you." He looks down, says softly, "That's probably true." There's no rage left in you, just recognition. "Why reach out?" you ask. He shrugs. "I've been reading your posts. It's weird seeing the story told out loud. Makes it harder to pretend nothing happened." You nod slowly. Truth does that. You don't forgive him. But you understand him now. The ladder was never solid. It was greased with fear. And Andrew, like many, chose the climb over the cost. You leave that meeting feeling nothing like closure, but something close to peace. Because now you know. They didn't expect you to speak. They didn't expect you to connect the dots. And they definitely didn't expect you to build something in the rubble. It's strange the way your mornings have changed. Where once you were chugging coffee at red lights, rehearsing meeting pitches in your head, now you wake up, stretch, and open your inbox to read stories from strangers who somehow feel like kin. Each one carries a familiar sting. Each one ends with a quiet thank you. You never planned to be anyone's voice, but here you are. The newsletter keeps growing. 3,000, then 5,000 subscribers. You start naming each edition after a small injustice, the Tuesday that wasn't a warning. Exit interviews and exit wounds, the smile before the cut. People devour them. Steve calls again. "It's spreading. Your old company's execs are doing brand protection briefings. They're rattled." You can't help but grin. Good. Also, small thing, a journalist reached out. They're sniffing around your story. That puts you on pause. You've been telling the truth. But telling it to people like you, former employees, burned out professionals, anonymous keyboard allies. Now the prospect of a larger platform, one with real visibility, makes you hesitate. Your partner notices the way you go quiet at dinner. "You thinking about going big?" You nod. "A reporter wants to interview me, name and face." They set their fork down. "Are you ready for that?" "I don't know." Ongoing debates about whether public exposure is bravery or foolishness now feel personal. You've seen how reputations twist under a spotlight. You know the internet doesn't offer grace. It offers judgment, clicks, and hot takes. But still, you think of the interns, the middle managers who were told to smile as they were escorted out, the janitor who confided in you that she knew who was stealing inventory, but never reported it because they don't listen to people like me. Maybe you don't need to be the loudest voice, but maybe you're meant to be the first. So you say yes. The interview is set for the following week. A mid-level online magazine that's grown popular among corporate survivors and HR skeptics. The journalist, Elena, is sharp and empathetic. She asks good questions, real ones. She doesn't push, but she doesn't let you dodge either. Halfway through the interview, she asks, "What do you think they underestimated most?" You blink, then say, "They underestimated the part of me they didn't put on a resume." Later that day, you send Elena a follow-up message. You give her one more detail, an internal doc, lightly redacted, that shows the timeline of your replacement. It's dated months before your exit conversation. She responds with a single sentence, "This changes everything." The article goes live the next Monday. Title, "The Loyalty Trap, When 20 Years Means Nothing." It explodes. It's not a headline grabber on CNN, but in the world of LinkedIn warriors, HR veterans, and mid-career folks wondering, am I next? It becomes a flashpoint. Comments roll in faster than you can read. This happened to me at my last job. I thought I was crazy until now. I've never felt so seen. You spend hours responding. You feel like a lifeguard in an ocean full of people pretending they can swim until someone finally throws them afloat. Then comes the real surprise. Another email. This one from a recruiter. Not some faceless staffing agency, but a respected name. A firm you admired back when you were still dressing for executive meetings. They want to talk. They've read the article. They've seen your writing. They say there's a growing space for people like you. Those who know the system from the inside and dare to challenge it from the outside. We think you'd be perfect to lead a new team focused on workplace advocacy strategy. You blink. What's that mean? It means using your experience to help companies not be like the one you left. You don't give an answer right away, because it's tempting, more than you expected. But also, something inside you says, don't rush. You're not just a professional anymore. You're a person again. With new rhythm, new priorities. You're learning to sit in the in-between. The next day, you meet an old colleague for coffee. Marcus, the one who took a demotion to keep his pension. He's been following your journey quietly. You're doing something rare, he says. Turning pain into blueprint. You chuckle. It wasn't the plan. Good, he says. Plans are what got us here. A few days later, your youngest pulls a paper from their backpack. We had to write about someone brave. I picked you. You read the page. Your throat tightens. They wrote, my parent got fired, but they didn't give up. They started telling the truth and helping other people tell theirs. That's what heroes do. You hug them for a long time. Later, you sit with your partner and they say softly, maybe this was always where you were meant to be. You just couldn't see it from the inside. You nod, because maybe they're right. You think about the debates people still have, whether you owe companies loyalty, whether work-life balance is a myth, whether getting fired is failure or freedom. You don't have all the answers. But you know this. You lost your job. You didn't lose your worth. You click open that recruiter email again. Maybe you'll say yes. Or maybe you'll build your own thing. For the first time in a long time, the choice feels like yours. You let the recruiter wait a few more days. Not out of pride, but clarity. You want to be sure that whatever comes next isn't just a rebound from betrayal. Because too many people do that. They rush into something new just to silence the sting of the old. You're not interested in silencing anymore. Instead, you take a walk. Not a rushed, purposeful one, but a meandering kind. The kind that lets your thoughts show up unannounced. Your old neighborhood looks smaller, slower now. Maybe you've just started looking up instead of down at your phone all the time. You pass the corner cafe where you used to hold Team 1-1s. You remember the time a junior analyst cried over a cappuccino because she felt invisible, and how you promised to watch her back. You wonder where she is now. You wonder if she remembers. Back home, your inbox pings. It's another message from someone who read the article. This one's different. It's from an employee still at your old company. They don't give their name, but their email address is from a personal account. They've used a VPN. Smart. They write, you probably don't remember me, but I sat in on your all-hands meetings. I want you to know, people are still scared, but they're listening. Your stories are circulating internally. They made us feel less alone. Please don't stop. You read it 3 times. Then you stare at the screen. You remember the fear, how it fogs your judgment, makes you second-guess everything, makes you shrink yourself to fit into places that were never meant for people like you. You never wanted to be anyone's symbol, but somehow, telling your truth gave others permission to remember theirs. You decide to write your next newsletter differently. More direct. You call it How They Made You Forget You Mattered. You walk readers through the subtle erosion of value. How long hours, silence, and gaslit praise can wear down even the most resilient. You name the tricks, the development plans that are thinly disguised exits, the promotions that come with no raise, the job titles that mean less than they promise. You include a line that sparks wildfire online. When you start apologizing for using your own PTO, it's not professionalism, it's programming. It gets quoted everywhere. People tag it, share it, turn it into wallpapers. A teacher messages you saying she printed it out and put it on her classroom wall. You smile. Then a friend calls. It's Ray, one of your oldest buddies from before the career grind ate your social life. He says, "You've been blowing up my feed, man. Everyone's talking about you." You laugh. "Let me guess, someone said I'm unhireable?" "Nope," he says. "They said you're dangerous, the good kind." You meet up with Ray that weekend for a barbecue. It's low-key, messy, perfect. Your kids run wild in the yard. His partner makes the kind of potato salad that fixes the soul. No one asks what your title is. No one mentions deliverables or KPIs. Halfway through the evening, Ray nudges you and says, "You're different, not just freer, lighter." You sip your drink. Getting fired stripped away a version of me that was never fully mine. He nods. "You found your people." That hits deep. Because the newsletter, the messages, the quiet support, they've all shown you one thing. Your people were never just the ones who sat in glass-walled offices. Your people are the ones who survived the same storms, even if their umbrellas looked different. Ongoing debates about whether your real network is built in the office or outside of it suddenly feel like a trick question. Maybe the real answer is, your network is whoever shows up when everything else falls away. Later that night, after everyone's left and the house smells like charcoal and laughter, your partner finds you on the porch. "You seemed happy tonight," they say. "I am," you reply. "I just didn't know it would take losing everything to feel it." "You didn't lose everything," they remind you. "You kept your integrity, and us." You lean your head on their shoulder. The stars above you don't feel so far away anymore. The next morning, you respond to the recruiter. You don't say yes, not yet. You ask for a meeting. You want to know what they really mean by advocacy. You want to know if they're hiring you to say what needs to be said, or just to repackage the message into something more palatable. Because now, you're not playing by old rules. You don't do silence for a salary anymore. The recruiter is surprisingly receptive. They set up a call with their head of talent. You prepare for it like you used to prepare for board meetings, but with a twist. You're not here to impress. You're here to interview them. The call goes better than expected. They've read everything. They reference specific phrases you wrote. They tell you they want someone to help them actually change, not just look like they're changing. You believe them, cautiously. After the call, you sit down at your desk and look around. It's not fancy. Just a modest room filled with light, a chair that doesn't squeak anymore, and a plant your kid named Kevin. But it's yours. You pull up an old document, the file where you started writing your own playbook for ethical leadership. It's messy, half-finished, emotionally charged. You smile, and then you start writing again. Because you've realized this isn't just recovery, this is resurrection. And your story? It's still being written. You know you've turned a corner when Sunday night doesn't taste like dread anymore. There was a time, not so long ago, when that quiet stretch between weekend and work week was filled with the tight breath of waiting, like a silent countdown to disappointment. You'd lay out your clothes for Monday, not because you wanted to be prepared, but because it gave you some illusion of control over a world that made decisions without you. Now, Sundays are slower. The air feels different, lighter. That Monday morning, your calendar has only one thing on it: a Zoom with the recruiter's leadership team. Not an interview this time, a conversation. They want to know what you'd build if you joined them. And to your surprise, you already have a plan. You talk about transparency reports that mean something. You describe what it would look like to build a company where exit interviews aren't just HR formalities, but honest reviews of culture. You speak slowly, with the weight of someone who knows what it costs to be silenced. And then, without meaning to, you say, "I want to create policies that stop people like me from becoming cautionary tales." There's a pause on their end. Then someone responds, "We don't want you to fit into our culture. We want you to help rebuild it." You end the call feeling seen, but you don't say yes, not yet. Because there's still something to finish. That night, you finally draft the last section of your now nearly viral newsletter series. You title it, "The Day They Lost Me, and Why I'm Not Coming Back the Same." It reads more like a farewell than a report. It's raw, nostalgic, hopeful. You include a moment most people didn't know about. The time your boss accidentally replied all to an email thread that joked about cleaning house. You were on that thread. You remember staring at your screen, stunned, watching the message get deleted minutes later like it never happened. You write, "They deleted the message, but not the meaning. We all read it, we all knew." It becomes your most shared piece. Then something unexpected happens. You're invited to speak at a virtual conference for HR disruptors. The theme? The future of workplace loyalty. You almost decline, but your partner reminds you, you're not just a voice now, you're a perspective. So you say yes. The day of the talk, you're nervous, not because of the topic, you know it by heart, but because you still carry that old voice inside that says, "Are you sure you're allowed to take up this much space?" You go anyway. You open with a story, not statistics. You tell them about the janitor, the intern, the loyal ones. You say, "Loyalty doesn't mean silence. It means courage. It means telling the truth even when your badge is gone." People flood the chat, clapping emojis, long, heartfelt comments. It's virtual, but it feels real. Afterward, you receive another message. This time from someone you once mentored years ago. You hadn't spoken in over a decade. They write, You told me once that your job was to make people feel like they belonged. Even now, you're still doing that. Thank you. You stare at the screen, moved. The threads of your past are weaving back together in unexpected ways. You didn't just leave a company, you left a legacy. Ongoing debates about whether jobs owe you more than a paycheck start to feel less abstract. You've lived the answer. You gave them your loyalty, your weekends, your late nights, your missed soccer games, and when they were done, they gave you a handshake and a severance clause. But here's what they didn't count on. You weren't just building spreadsheets. You were building people. And those people remember. Later that week, the recruiter follows up. They want your answer. You talk it over with your partner. They ask the only question that matters. Will it let you keep being you? You sit with that. And then you write your reply, yes, but with conditions. You ask for time to build a framework, your framework. You ask for autonomy. You ask to bring on your own people. And to your surprise, they agree. It's not just a new job, it's a new model. You post a quiet update on your LinkedIn. Coming soon, something better. Stay tuned. The comments roll in. Cheers, encouragement, even a few apologies from former colleagues who stayed silent during your exit. You don't gloat, you simply reply. We all do what we need to survive. No hard feelings? That weekend, your family celebrates. Your kids make you a new boss card out of construction paper. Your partner toasts you with sparkling cider and says, to the comeback. You think it over. It's not quite that. It's something different, something more honest. A rebirth. You sit outside later that night, watching the wind move through the trees, feeling something you haven't felt in a long, long time, peace. Because you're not trying to go back to who you were. You're building something forward, and that's the real win. The story isn't about revenge, it's about reclamation. You've taken back your voice, you've taken back your time, and most importantly, you've taken back your worth. It's quiet now, the storm has passed. Or maybe you've just learned how to sit with the thunder without flinching. The last few months feel like a blur, stitched with moments of unexpected clarity. You've started consulting with a handful of companies brave enough to ask the hard questions. Your days are no longer a countdown to dread, but a series of deliberate choices. You even find time to pick up hobbies you shelved years ago. Painting, running, reading books that aren't related to work. One morning, your partner wakes you with coffee and a smile. Remember when you said you didn't know if you were ready for this? Looks like you were more ready than you thought. You laugh softly. Maybe I just had no choice. You're invited back to your old company, not as an employee, but as a guest speaker. It's a surreal moment, walking those familiar halls with a different kind of presence. You're not bitter, just aware. You notice the subtle shifts, the cautious glances, the hushed conversations, the changes you helped nudge into motion. During your talk, you share one of your favorite lines. The worst has come, but it doesn't have to define us. You see nods, hear quiet agreements. It feels like healing. Later, a former colleague approaches you, eyes sincere. Thank you for breaking the silence. It's a reminder that change often begins with a single voice willing to speak the truth. Ongoing debates about whether workplace culture is salvageable or broken beyond repair still swirl around you. You've learned that it's neither black nor white. It's messy, complex, and always evolving. In your personal life, the ripples continue. Relationships once strained begin to mend. Your family sees you not just as the provider, but as someone who fought to reclaim dignity and balance. Conversations around the dinner table shift from the stress of the job to dreams and plans for the future. One evening, your youngest asks, "Do you think you'll ever get another job like before?" You smile and say, "I think I'm working on a job that's better, one where I get to be me." You realize your journey isn't about going back. It's about moving forward, with scars that tell stories of survival and hope. You write the final entry in your newsletter series, more a letter than a report, addressed to anyone who's ever felt disposable or overlooked. You end it with a whisper of encouragement. The worst has come, yes, but it also brought you here, stronger, wiser, ready. And that is where the story truly begins. The screen fades, the words linger. You breathe deeply, feeling a calm you haven't known in years. Everyone has their own journey, and you don't have to walk it alone. Know that there is always someone who listens and stands with you.